all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word.
Amen.
Prior to Moses giving these words to the children of Israel in the preceding chapter, he had given them the Ten Commandments and the various other commandments that God desired for the children of Israel to follow when they went into the promised land. He'd given these preceding, or these commandments in this particular text because he wanted them not only to receive his blessing, which was unequivocal, that they were going to get that, but he wanted them to be able to enjoy it long term and not for it to just be fleeting. If an athlete is struggling in some aspect of their craft, they have been taught to focus on the fundamentals. As Christians, we also, if we're honest, every once in a while we'll go through dry seasons. And I would admonish you when you do, it behooves us to analyze the fundamentals. And in this text, God, I believe, gives us the fundamentals for having a vibrant, growing, thriving relationship with him all the days of our lives. And the first one is contained in verse 6, where he tells us to love the Lord with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, with all thy mind, with all thy might. Some have different versions of that translation. But in other words, he's telling us to love him with everything that's in us. And that would seem like it's simple to do. But as we've advanced technologically and in so many other ways, the simple life that the people that these scriptures were written to is almost obsolete in our generation. Oh, and the best among us have to be masters of juggling. Oh, hear me. Juggling our relationships with our spouses, juggling our relationship with our children, juggling our careers, juggling our ministries, juggling our ambitions, juggling our habits and hobbies, juggling all of those things. And it becomes difficult to be able to give the time sometimes to God so that this vibrant relationship that he desires will be able to be fulfilled in our lives. Our enemy's job, since it is for him to steal, kill, and destroy, is to try to get us out of balance, so to speak, in at least one of these areas. To allow us to spend a disproportionate amount of time on one of these things so that we will not have the time we think to give to God what I call first things first. And I have learned that if we do put first things first, that God will allow us and give us the wisdom and the strength to be able to be successful in all the other areas and things that we have to do. But he tells us to first fundamental is to love him with everything. But we must also obviously understand that God is love. And that it is not natural in us to have love. So before we can love God, the love of God, as Paul says in Romans 5:8, must be shed abroad in our hearts. We have lust. We don't have love. We have to get love from God. And you can't give what you don't have. So we must get it from God if we're going to have it at all. Fundamental number 2 is that we must habitually obey God. Habitually obey him. And notice he talks about, he gives us 2 of the fundamentals before he says anything about our children. He understands that if we don't perfect loving him and obeying him, the way that we're going to train our children is not going to be the right way. So we must habitually obey him, habitually love him. And God knows, like I said, if we don't do this, it's going to be difficult to be able to train our children in the right way.
That's right.
If you look at verse 6, it says that of these commandments, that these commandments should be in our hearts, not just in our heads. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 8:1 that knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. We must not only know something, we must become something. We must become what we know. God doesn't want us just to know about love. He wants us to love. He doesn't want us to know about holiness. He wants us to be holy. He doesn't want us to know about righteousness. He wants us to be righteous. So our knowledge might start in our head, but it can't stay there.
All right now.
It must proceed to our hearts.
That's right.
So this knowledge can change us and transform us.
That's right.
And then after these two things are perfected in our life, God then tells us to teach our children.
Amen.
That's fundamental number 3. To diligently teach our children.
That's right.
Which means over and over and over and over.
Amen.
Our homes are supposed to be the teaching epicenter for our children.
That's right.
Notice he didn't say bring them to church and to Sunday school.
Come on now.
So they can be taught. Now that's a good thing now. Don't misunderstand me. But the primary teaching people are supposed to be the parents.
Amen.
He says you teach them. Those things supplement it, but we are supposed to be their teachers. And I have learned personally that all teaching is not verbal. What do the kids see in your home, in my home? Do they see alcohol in the refrigerator? Do they see drugs that you're trying to hide from them? Do they see pornography on the television and on the computer? Do they hear the arguments that mommy and daddy are having at night when they think they sleep?
Come on now. That was cool. Keep it real.
The text says to teach them when I walk by the way. This presupposes that I'm going to be spending quality time with my kids.
Amen.
I am a statistics junkie. And I'm going to get into this a little bit more. But one statistic that was shocking to me is that the Department of Health and Human Services said the average father spends 7.5 minutes of uninterrupted time with their children per week. But spend 32 hours a week watching TV. I believe there comes a point and a time in a man's life when he must be able to distinguish true pleasure from self-indulgence. True happiness from vanity. True things that will have eternal value versus those that will not suffice or get up beyond the fire that God is going to create. I have learned that there are some things that I have to get right in my life. And if I don't get them right, the rest doesn't matter.
That's right.
I have to get right in my life who Jesus Christ is to me. And if I don't get that right, the rest don't matter.
All right.
And I have to get right in the raising of my children. Oh, hear me. If I am rich and successful and powerful in the world, but along the process, I damage my children. All the accolades of society won't mean nothing.
Amen.
Why does God command us to teach our children? The simple answer, we're going to die.
Amen.
And there must always be an example of who God is in the earth visibly, so that the next generation will not be lost. It tells us to teach them and to train them. First, we find our purpose in God and to perfect and that relationship and to love God with everything we have and to eventually obey Him, and then give our children a model of a godly man and a godly woman, and so that they will know and be able to have a road to go by or to go down.
That's right.
So they can find God.
That's right.
Oh, all of us, most of us, I should say, got saved out of the hog pen. Some of us got saved on the mountaintop, but most of us got saved out of the hog pen. But the issue is, even though